Welcome to the webinar, What's New in ExactPath for the 2021-22 school year. We have two presenters today, Erik Sottung and Laura Fischer. Erik is a 15-year educator. He began as a math assessment and curriculum developer. He is a former assessment director at ETS, Educational Testing Services. At Edmentum, Erik defines the product vision and works closely with engineering, sales, marketing, and support to ensure customer satisfaction. Laura Fischer has over 20 years experience in curriculum design, both in the classroom and the education and publishing and ed tech industries. She has worked with multiple companies to build out their ELA programs from pre-K through high school. At Edmentum, Laura leads the pedagogical vision for our ELA offerings and ensures our work is based on the best practices and needs of the learner and educator. Take it away, Erik. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adam, and thank you all for being here today. This webinar that we do every year at this time is one of the signals that we're in the back to school period, which I just can't believe that we're here already. But here on the screen, you can see a poll question. So we'd like to know your experience with ExactPath. So let's take a moment to respond to that poll and then we'll get started. Oh, I love watching this in real time. I can see the results. Lots of people brand new this school year. Very good. Love that you're attending today. Some limited experience. Good. All right, things look like they're stabilizing a little bit, Adam. All right, are we sharing the results with everyone? Yeah, all right, lots of new people. So I'm sure lots of questions from this group. We want to see you very engaged, asking those questions in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer all of them today. Anything that we can't answer, we can follow up on those things. All right.
Share the results?
Okay. Stop sharing.
Okay, I'll close it.
Okay.
That should be good, Erik.
All right. So we've got a full agenda today. We'll talk a little bit about ExactPath overall, and then we're going to share the updates we've made over the last 6 months for ExactPath. We've really focused on our K2 learners, providing additional data and reporting updates, and then we'll close out with some reminders for the new school year. And along the way, we'll take your questions, but we'll also open it up at the end for Q&A. So first of all, just change things on my screen a little bit. Laura and I and all of our colleagues at Edmentum, we strongly believe that every student has the right to experience success at their level and based on their unique needs. The ExactPath program is essentially a personalized learning program to try to serve what our students need at their level so that we can fully engage and motivate them. And of course, during the pandemic, we need a lot of flexibility for our educators and for our students. So providing a program that can work really well within the classroom, and also if the students have to work remotely. So within an environment that works best for our students. We're here to talk about ExactPath. Since a lot of new people, it's good to start with just a high-level overview. So ExactPath at its core is a combination of adaptive diagnostic assessments, and those diagnostic assessments then pinpoint the specific abilities for students, and we assign to them automatically some individualized learning paths so they can either get the remediation or enrichment that they need. Digging in a little bit deeper, ExactPath is a program for K-12 students in reading, language arts, and math. And as we head into this back to school period, the first thing that I'm sure is top of mind is really understanding where your students are at and using that information to inform your instructional plans. So we can use the Edmentum diagnostic to pinpoint the student ability. If you're using NWA or Renaissance assessments, then we offer the flexibility so that you can import those assessment results into the program use those assessment results to automatically generate learning paths. And those learning paths then provide the what's next, the learning that really connects the assessment data with the classroom. And so secondly, we provide that learning path instruction, and that learning path is adaptive. So as the students demonstrate their mastery, they're given new assignments and they can make progress. If they need more remediation, then the learning path will adapt back to the kind of precursor instruction that they need. Along the way, we're providing a lot of reporting to teachers and to administrators. And so you can use that information to try to stay a step ahead of our students, understand the progress they're making, think about how we need to adapt our instruction. And we're also providing both print and digital supplemental resources in addition to the learning path, so that you can supplement your students' curriculum as needed here. And lastly, also the reports are providing information over the academic year so that Edmentum diagnostic can be administered up to 5 times. And so you can see the progress that your students are making, and that information can be shared with your data coaches, with parents, and with administrators. So over the last 12 months, we've really made a strong commitment to improving this program, and we're going to continue to do so. We're very proud of what it offers, but we're not done by any means. There's a lot more, and the feedback that you provide us is directly what's influencing the changes that we're making in this program. So over the last 12 months, one of the things that we try to do is boost the testing experience for students by shortening our diagnostics. We want the majority of classroom time to be spent on instruction. And so we want to maintain the same level of rigor and coverage in our diagnostic assessments, but be able to complete them in as little time as possible. We've provided additional assessment flexibility. So if you are a district and one of your schools uses NWA, but you wanted to use the Edmentum diagnostic for a different school, we allow for multiple assessment types to be used within one account. And that really unifies the user experience, right? So you don't have to log into multiple systems to manage all the schools in your district. And it allows for the data to be aggregated within one account as well. We've improved our reporting. So we've made some of our student level reports available to the learner and to the parents. This was critical during the pandemic when parents were more involved than ever in helping with instruction for their kids. And so providing that information to them was really critical. We enhanced our single sign-on capabilities. We wanted to make it as easy as possible for you to get onboarded and log in to the application. So we've enabled integration with Google and Microsoft. If you are an NWA partner, we created an API so that once the API has been set up, that we can automatically import those MAP assessment scores into the system. Within a couple of days of the student completing their assessment, they have a learning path ready for them. And last year, we developed a lot of rich new content. We focused last year on grades 3 through 5. And this year, we've shifted our focus to K2. And Laura, in a few minutes, is going to be talking about all of that great new content. So a lot of progress over the last 12 months. But let's talk about what we've done so far for this school year and where we're going. And so one of the things that really stood out to us was how vulnerable our early learners were, our K2 learners, with the amount of remote learning that occurred over the last year. Whether it be remote learning or it be in the classroom, we need to make the program as easy as possible to navigate. And so we really put a lot of effort into simplifying the K2 experience. We've added a lot of rich reading content to support those learners. And we've also looked beyond just academic supports that we provide. So we'll be sharing a little bit about a new executive function offering that's going to support those learners. We've also done a lot of work on data and reporting. So adding in data metrics that are going to be impactful, that are going to help you really understand the ability level of your students, and to help with communication with both parents and also with administrators. We've seen with the research, the third-party research that we've done, that if students are using the learning path, they're going to see a positive effect. And what's key to getting students to use the learning path is engagement from you, from our educators, and from our administrators. And so one of the things that we've tried to do is provide some new dashboard reports that show things like whether or not the learning paths have been generated and the time that's being spent in learning paths, so that you can monitor how students are using the learning paths, and then you can encourage teachers and students if they need to use it differently. And we continue to try to make enhancements just to simplify the tool for educators, spend less time on boarding, so that you can spend more time on providing instruction and using some of the instructional tools within the program. So that's a high level, and now we're going to jump into some of the detailed updates. And so I'm going to start by demoing the K2 learner experience. And so now I'm going to navigate to a student. So I'm logged in as a first grader. This is Amna. And so what you can see here is that we've greatly simplified the overall user interface for this K2 learner. I think, created this beautiful and fun theme that's behind the different choices that Amna can make. Greatly reduced the number of options that are available, used a design that is friendly for all the various devices, so tablets that a lot of our K2 learners are going to be using. This new user interface also meets the AA standard for WCAG accessibility. So we're very proud about the strides that we've made in that area. And so for Amna here, when she accesses the program, we want her to go into her learning path. She can click on the subject that her teacher has directed her to, and it takes her straight into the learning path. There's no choice here but to play the learning path. When she does that, it opens up, and you can hear the fun animation and sound. I'm going to pause this.
Look at all the shapes in our class.
So one of the changes also that we made is we needed to reduce the amount of choice that a K2 learner can make, so that they continue to make progress in the order of the learning path that we want them to. So we want them to start with the tutorial that's offered, and then proceed to the practice. And then once they've completed the tutorials and practice, to be able to demonstrate their mastery in a progress check. And so we've set up the system in such a way that it's going to really direct Amna through that process. She doesn't have to understand anything about that. She's just going through playing what's offered up to her, getting the instruction that she needs, having a chance to do some scaffolded practice, and then demonstrating her mastery. So I'm going to leave this learning path now, and I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint, and I'm going to hand it off to Laura, who's going to talk about the new K2 content that's available.
Thanks, Eric. I'm super excited to be able to talk to everybody about something that's near and dear to my heart. We have a bunch of great new content for our K2 learners that's just come out in this last release, and there's even more on the way. So I'm just going to walk you through some examples of the kinds of things we've been working on and that our learners will be able to benefit from this school year. So on a big picture level, we are really excited to announce that we've got, gosh, over 50 new modules that cover foundational math and literacy skills in kindergarten through second grade. And these modules, if you're not familiar with Exact Path, they have a lesson tutorial followed by a practice experience with, kind of engaging items for students to apply their knowledge to. And this last release We don't have mastery quizzes anymore for these young learners because really to a K through 2 second grader, they don't really feel the difference between a practice item or a quiz item. And so we found that it was just a little bit more assessment than they needed at this age. We still have the progress check assessment at the end of the 4-skill learning path, but we don't have those mastery quizzes anymore. And instead we've relied much more on engaging practice items for this set. Let's see. I think that also Madison might be able to put some links in the chat about some blog posts we have that relate to the learning design for our latest releases, if anybody wants to check those out later. But we can move on to the next slide, Erik. So one of the things that we're excited is that we've really tried hard to think carefully and critically about the learning science behind this instruction. And part of that for these young learners involves a lot of modeling. And so here's an example of a screen that shows L-Conan boxes, which is a really kind of classic classroom technique for phonological awareness. And if you're not, super into reading foundational skills, that might not mean much to you. But the long and short of it is that if you click one more time, you can see that for phonological awareness, the idea is that you are working purely with sounds, right? Students need to be able to recognize sounds and manipulate sounds before we attach text or letters to them. And so in an L-Conan box, you kind of represent sounds as shapes, and then you've got an arrow that moves across the shapes, and students learn to blend sounds and manipulate sounds that way. So we've built that kind of modeling into some of our newer phonological and phonemic awareness lessons. And if you click one more time, we can take a look at a math example wherein we have some manipulatives that look really familiar to students, right? We've really tried to bring the classroom experience and what they might be familiar with in that setting into their learning here. And so here you can see kind of the classic math manipulatives of this, these cube sets. And a lot of thinking and research has gone into, how do we present these concepts to the littlest kids? Because it's different when you have small fries, right? It's a different need than perhaps someone who's a 5th grader and is really technologically savvy. And we just want to make sure that we're placing the cognitive load in the right places for these guys. Next slide. So another global improvement we have to offer is we have a newly designed character set for our K2 modules. And so these characters are familiar faces with kind of a new updated look. They've got a fresh look to them. And we've also been able to incorporate some new characters. We have some new folks joining the cast because we really wanted to be sensitive to representation. We wanted all of our learners to be able to see themselves in the character set that they're going to be interacting with all the time. And so part of our efforts and when we designed our new characters is we based them on real life models, and we worked in collaboration with an outside DEI consultant just to make sure that we were hitting the right marks and that we truly were doing justice to the whole continuum of our learners. Click and click. I think we need 2 in a row. Yeah. So not only do we have new characters, which are fresh and fun and engaging, but we also have an amazing team of artists. And so they've been able to create some new backgrounds and worlds for these characters to do the interactive learning. And, we hope that learners are able to see a lot of familiar places, but also maybe some more exotic locales, to keep it interesting and to keep that engagement up. All right, I think we're ready to move on. I am an ELA person, that's my job here. And so I am going to focus more in depth on the specifics in terms of the K-2 reading foundation skills that we've been able to improve on in this last release. So there's a whole bunch of new reading modules, you guys. And if you're not a K-2 teacher, this may not mean much to you, but I'm going to try to break it down into ways that will make sense. It's kind of a scientific endeavor, teaching kids how to learn to read, right? And so we really want to make sure that we're doing it in the best way we know how. We spent a lot of time researching and just making sure that what we're doing was backed by the science of reading. And so you'll see in the new modules, you'll see that we include the entire spectrum of foundational skills. And when we say foundational skills, we mean phonological and phonemic awareness. We mean letter recognition. We mean phonics. We mean word analysis when you get into the older grades. We're also really excited to introduce for the first time in Exact Path a focus on high frequency or sight words. And last but not least, decodable readers. So students actually have e-readers in the program that allow them to actively apply all of the knowledge that they've been gaining throughout their module and their learning path. All right, click. So the first kind of strand of foundational skills in the progression is phonological awareness. And I had mentioned before that it's about sounds. It's not about text. It's not about letters. In order to develop these early literacy skills, kids need to be able to manipulate and understand how sounds work and to identify discrete phonemes or components of sound. And so we have several phonological and phonemic awareness modules in grade K and 1 that speak to this. And if you click, we can see a quick example of a little snippet from one of our—
to make new words is fun. It sure is. This time, why don't we try making new words by taking sounds away? Great idea, Rosa. Do you have an example? Yes. What's this, Manu? Swing. Now say swing without s. Swing. I can hear the sounds s and wing. If I take the s sound away, the new word is wing. Great job, Manu.
Great job, Manu. And you can move forward. We're going to take a dive into phonics now. And a lot of people don't really know what the difference is between phonics and phonological awareness. It all kind of sounds the same, but the difference is that phonics introduces letters, and this is where the sound symbol correspondence starts to happen in kids' brains. And we've got a bunch of really engaging ways to introduce letter sounds to students. We have great dynamic backgrounds and exciting kind of gamified approach to instruction and practice for these phonics modules. So it's phonics in grades K and 1. And most standard sets would have you move into word analysis in grade 2, and we follow that same progression. And so in our phonics modules, they have opportunities to look at letter sound correspondences in isolation, which is great. M makes the sound. And then they also have opportunities to apply it. They decode words, they mix and match letters to make new words, they see them in the context in sentences. And so we've really tried to offer a lot of ways for students to work with their new letter sound mastery. And if you click, we can watch a quick video here.
Emma, do you see the balloon dart game at this fair? That looks fun. When we throw a dart at the balloon pops. Each time it pops, we can learn a new letter name and sound. I'll go first. It landed on the letter I.
The letter I makes the I sound. Listen to I as in ink. The word ink has the letter I. I makes the sound I. Repeat after me. I makes the sound I.
I makes the sound I. Let's read this word. D. Nod. What word do we make if we change the N to a P? D. Pod.
Look at the word. Say each letter sound and blend them together to read the word. What is the word? Map, mop, top.
So there's a nice example of a way that we've been able to embed practice items within instruction to keep engagement up and have kids apply right at the point of introduction there. In our next slide, I just want to briefly talk about the inclusion of sight words, also known as high frequency words. And so we've made some deliberate efforts to include groupings of sight words in each of our foundational skills modules, and they're based on some of the traditional word lists out there like Dolch and Fry and guided reading. And the idea behind sight words is that they're words that aren't always phonetic. And so the idea is that we want to build automaticity and quick recognition of these words so that when students encounter them in text, they're not struggling to decode them using the rules we've been teaching them, because not all of them follow the rules. And so we have a nice high frequency word program built in so that as students are learning to decode letter sounds, they're also getting this kind of, arsenal of high frequency words. And before you know it, they're actually able to apply these to text and really start making meaning from them. And if you click one more time, the last thing I want to talk to everybody about are our decodable readers. So this was a really fun endeavor, but not without its challenges. So the idea behind decodable readers is that you're giving students a text that is 80 to 90% decodable, meaning they can read it just based on the progression of sounds that they've already learned. And in the very early stages, you can imagine that it's kind of a limited pool, right? Until they get every letter under their belt and all of the sight words under their belt. We've created some really engaging e-readers that allow students to take the information that they just learned about letter sounds, about high frequency words, and now all of these things appear magically in a reader for them to read, and they really get this feeling of satisfaction. I can read this. I just learned this. Look, I'm reading. And so the e-readers are great. They are high interest. We've really gone the extra mile to make sure that we're introducing things like SEL content and, kind of diversity of experiences and multiculturalism in them. And students can move through them at their own pace, and they have some kind of guiding questions to keep them interested. So we can see just a quick snippet of a decodable reader in this video.
Hey, Rosa, have you read a book you liked lately? It's funny that you asked me that. My new favorite book is called We Like. The new letter sounds and words we learned helped me read it. That's right. We sounded out the letters and blended them together to read new words.
Now it's your turn to read the story. Think about all the letter sounds and words you've learned. Then read the book We Like and answer the questions.
So you can kind of see this gives kids the opportunity to read what's on the page, to continue when they're ready to continue at their own pace. So that is really an overview of the content we've been able to provide for K2 in our latest release. And I want to let everybody know that there's so much more great stuff on the horizon. Not only are we going to continue to augment our K2 offerings, but we've got 3.6 queued up in the line, and we just really are always improving and trying to create a huge body of meaningful content for our youngest learners and teachers too. We are educator first in everything we do.
Laura, before you go, and Eric maybe can help out with this. Question came in: if a second grader scores low, will they be assigned kindergarten and/or first grade phonic lessons? And this maybe is a chance to explain how exact path works in general.
Yeah, Laura, I'm happy to answer that question unless you'd like to.
No, go for it.
Yeah, so that's one of the beauties of Exact Path, right? So the Exact Path adaptive diagnostic is really trying to figure out the student's ability level, and it's going beyond on grade level content. So it will continue to give easier questions below or off grade level questions until we're very confident in their ability. And then we place them into a learning path that's in their zone of proximal development, so where it's appropriate for them. So if it's appropriate for them to be assigned a kindergarten skill, absolutely they're going to get that. If there are some kindergarten skills that they're needing more work on, but then there's first and second grade schools that they actually assess skills that they assess above, then they'll have a chance to work on that kindergarten skill. And as soon as they complete it, they'll jump up to what's appropriate for them next. So that adaptiveness is really allowing them, and they can go back as far as they want. If they're a fifth grade student, they can receive a kindergarten skill if that's what's important for them, if that's what's appropriate for them. So absolutely, these K2 lessons and practice and tests are applicable to a lot of our students. You know, we see a lot of K-5 students benefiting from this content. Adam, any other questions for us?
There is one about parent reports. At the beginning, you mentioned improved parent reporting. And can you share some more information about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a student summary report, and that student summary report, it shows the student's performance on the Edmentum diagnostic, goes into good detail about the experience that they had, the scores that they have, some of the general data. It also provides a lot of information about the students' progress on the learning path, what trophies that they've mastered, if they've completed some skills, where they've been placed, what they're currently practicing or struggling with. And so if the educator chooses, they can enable that student summary report to show up in the learner side of the application. And then parents can access that learner side and access the student summary report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. Keep them coming. We are going to keep going, and please keep asking your questions. So to complete our K2 story for today, we also wanted to share with you this really exciting part that we've added on to Exact Path that is going beyond the academic supports that had previously existed. And this is bringing executive functioning, so executive function assessment and executive function instruction to support our K2 learners. So if you're familiar with executive function, you understand how foundational it is to students, to their academic success, to really their well-being overall. If you're not familiar with it, I'll just give you kind of a quick introduction. So executive function skills are the mental processes that enable us to plan, to focus attention, remember instructions, manage multiple tasks, things like flexible thinking, impulse control, working memory. These are so critical, especially at that age range, and something that a lot of our students have really missed a lot of opportunity to learn given remote learning in the pandemic. And so what we've added, and I'll demonstrate in a few minutes, we've added this assessment and this instruction that the instructors can give to K2 students. And so some of the research behind executive function, the part that's in bold here, executive function measured in childhood predicts a wide range of important outcomes, right? So readiness, school performance, social competence, physical health, it really has wide-ranging implications, so very important. And so we've partnered with a wonderful company named Reflection Sciences. Reflection Sciences offers a product called EFGO Pro. And EFGO Pro has an executive function assessment. It's a really fun, age-appropriate game where they do some card sorting. I'll demonstrate that in a moment. And then within a few minutes, we can get a measurement of the student's executive function ability. And then there's also lots of executive function instruction that can be given to the student, or can be given to small groups or to the entire class. So let me jump into the program. I'll log out of our learner. And I'm going to log in as an instructor. And so now I'm logged in as a teacher. This is the teacher app for Exact Path. And I can see here under my classes, I have this new page called Executive Function. And from this page, I can launch the EFGO Pro application. And one of the things that we wanted to do is to really make it easy for educators to be able to access the assessment and the instruction. And so as I log in right here, I'm selecting the class that I want to work with. And We've streamlined the rostering and the authentication into this EFGO Pro product so you can sign in with Edmentum. It's just going to take a moment here. What it's doing is it's pulling in all of the classroom data that you've already created in ExactPath. So there's no additional setup that you have to do in order to use this EFGO program. So here I can see the class that I just set up, and I select it, and it's going to open up a dashboard that shows some data reporting. And then I can scroll down to see my the children that are in my class. In this case, I want to demonstrate to you the executive function assessment. So I'm going to go ahead and click play here. So this assessment is something that is administered by a teacher. It could be administered on the teacher's computer, or we could generate a link and a QR code that can then be used to open up the assessment on the student's device if we wanted to do that. In this case, I'm just going to launch the assessment. And I get to select the language. This is available in English and Spanish. And I get to select an avatar for this student. So I'm going to select, I think it's a fox, something that looks like that, and continue. There's a few different versions of this game. I'm going to select level 2. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of a preview here of what this assessment looks like. So it starts off, it's going to allow the teacher and the student to practice the assessment first. And so it's giving me some instructions at the top about the rule that I need to follow. And so it wants me to put this in the big elephant box. And here's a little elephant. It goes in the little elephant box. And so this is the card sorting game that I was talking about, where it's going to give us different rules, and we have to follow these rules. And then as we play this game, the rules are going to become more complex. So over time, it may switch up the rule. It says, like, put the little elephant in the big elephant box, or maybe it'll give me a black outline around the card, and there'll be a rule that's specific to that. And so really the level of cognitive flexibility and working memory, that increases as the student demonstrates their executive function ability. And it's just kind of a fun game for the student and teacher to play, and great for them to interact, right? Building that relationship with each other. So that is executive function. Let me pause and see if there's any questions about that. Adam, any questions?
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Just gonna do some navigating here. We back on the PowerPoint. To jump ahead. Sorry, let me jump ahead this way.
These slides will be available in the email tomorrow, so you get to see what Erik's doing.
Thank you, Adam. All right, so next we're going to talk about the improvements that we've made to data and reporting, and I'll demonstrate these as well. So one of the things that we've wanted to do is to really elevate the learning path usage for our educators. So if you have a good idea of how the learning paths are being used by your students, you can help influence them to follow your school's implementation model. When you're getting that information, what we've seen is that you'll be engaged, and that the students are engaged. And when the students are engaged, they see lots of progress in the system. So we're trying to make it very easy for you to be able to see at a glimpse how the program is doing, how students are working in their learning path. And I will demonstrate that in just a moment. And so this is what I'm talking about. If we can get students to engage in the learning paths, and we really like for students to be spending at least 40 minutes per week per subject. That will ensure, if we do that consistently, that the students can achieve a year's worth of growth over an academic year, and is aligned with the research, the third-party research that we've done that shows that students that complete at least 8 skills within a semester are going to show significant learning gains. The other work that we've done on data and reporting is to add in a grade level proficiency measure. So this is an indicator of whether students are on track to reach grade level expectations by the end of the year. We went through a standard setting process with about 30 different educators for each subject. We went through that standard setting this summer, and those educators following that standard setting process determined, based off of our Edmentum diagnostic, which scale scores could determine whether a student is below grade level proficiency, approaching, meets, or exceeds. And so this is a measure that can give you kind of a quick understanding of the student's overall ability. It can be useful for grouping and can be helpful in your communication with parents and stakeholders. This grade level proficiency is relative to the time of year the student is testing. So it will adjust. So it has different expectations for when the student is testing in fall versus winter and versus in spring, right? At the beginning of the year in fall, they're not expected to be on grade level or proficient. And so this is measuring against them, measuring against the expectations for the fall time period and so forth. And this is just one data point that along with all of the other data that's available based off of the Edmentum diagnostic, like national percentile rank and the learning path entry grade, that used together can be very powerful to identify a student's ability and hopefully inform some instructional planning. So let's see it in the product. All right, I've logged in as the administrator, and immediately it takes me to my administrator dashboard. The first thing that you can see at the top is this is a partner that uses the Edmentum diagnostic, and so it's giving an indicator of which test window is open, or the schedule of our testing windows. And so we can see that currently this account is in their 4th testing window during August. And down below, we have our new admin dashboard reports. And so there's 2 questions that we're answering immediately. First one is whether or not students have Learning Pass, right? As we're going back to school, we're trying to get students into the Learning Path as quickly as possible. And so this is going to give you a good view of how many students within your program have generated Learning Paths. And then to the right here is a widget that's going to show how much time the students are spending on their learning path. Now, this is a lower environment account. This is a dummy account that doesn't have a lot of student data. And so for this previous week, it's not showing anything. But if I go into this time period filter, and this is really nice, you can take a look at the time that's spent for the entire academic year. They can use this to monitor from week to week. And you can also enter in a custom range. So first, I'm going to just change it to the current academic year. And because this account doesn't have a lot of usage, you're seeing that the students are showing up as most of the students showing up as spending between 0 to 19 minutes per week. The other categories are 20 to 39 and 40 plus. We chose that 40 plus, right, to align with our dosage recommendations. So you can see what percentage of students are really meeting that recommendation. So let's take a look at when there was some activity. Let me change this to 2020. I didn't give it enough time. 8:31 and 9:1 is not enough time. I've changed this date a little bit. All right, so now we can see a little bit of a distribution of time here. So the other thing that's nice about this dashboard is that we have these various filters. So you can look at it for all of the schools within your account. If you wanted to narrow it down to one or many of them, you can do that. You can also look at this for specific grades. And if you wanted to focus in only on one or more subjects, you can do that. This is just the beginning of this dashboard. So this is showing it at an account level. And so for this fall, what we're going to be adding on to this is the ability to drill through each of these reports. So starting at the account level, like you see it now, but adding the capability to then drill this down by school. And then also to be able to see the information for all the classes within those schools, and then also to be able to drill within those classes to see all the students. So you'll really have the ability to monitor the learning path usage at the level that you care about. Adam, any questions about the dashboard?
I haven't seen any. Any questions about the dashboard, folks? No, go ahead.
Okay, excellent. So we'll move on to grade level proficiency. I'm going to navigate over to math here. And within the math menu here, we can see options for the learning path and for our diagnostic. And so we've introduced this new grade level proficiency measure within our class results report. And so I'm going to change this to a test window that has been completed so we can see some results. And this is a report that is very frequently used by teachers to understand how their class is doing overall based off of the diagnostic, and also at a detailed student level. So this first class results visual is about the averages for the class, is giving you an overall sense of how your class is performing. And so we can see the average diagnostic scale score for the class, and then we can see the minimum and also the maximum, and then we can see the average growth. So this was part of the existing report. The grade level proficiency measure, we can see here that there's this new visualization that shows for each testing window that's been completed, the number of students that are falling into each of the different grade level proficiency categories. So below, approaching, meets, exceeds. And again, this is based off of the time of year that they're testing. So at the beginning of the year, this is against fall expectations, and that progresses to the spring. So that's helpful to see overall in a class level. But I think what we really care about is understanding the student level information. So that's where we scroll down here, and we've added the grade level proficiency indicator next to the scale score. So you can see for all the students in your class what their enrolled system grade is, how much growth they've made since the last diagnostic, their scale score and their grade level proficiency indicator, their national percentile ranking, and then also the learning path entry grade. So one of the things I like to do is to sort based off the scale score. So this is a good way for me to group my students. As I look through the data, we talked about that triangulation process earlier. One student that really stands out to me and really kind of shows to me a lot of the power of this program is a student like Amalia, who at a high level is on track, right? She's meeting grade level expectations. Her NPR is very high. That looks really good. Maybe Amalia, because of that, wouldn't get the attention. Maybe would overlook, some of the detailed needs that she has, that we just assume that, she's doing everything very well and on grade level. Well, when we take a look at the learning path entry grades, yeah, overall for across these domains, it looks like she's on grade level, but something might be going on in algebra and expressions, right? The diagnostic assessment has determined that then maybe she needs some more work there. And so then we could dig more into Amalia. We could open up the student summary report by clicking on her name. And I can take a look at math and look at each of the test windows, and she hasn't completed test window 4 yet, so I'm going to go back to 3. And I've got a lot of detailed information about her diagnostic experience. I can then come in and take a look at the skills that Amalia was assessed on, open those up, and get a better sense of if there are some skills here that she needs to receive some more instruction.
Eric, how many testing windows can a school district have in ExactPath?
It
There's
depends.
4, but
Yeah, it depends on the account type, but we can provide up to 5 test windows.
Okay.
So
Good.
typically what schools will do is they'll administer 3 test windows, one in the fall, one in the winter, one in the spring, but we are capable of offering 5.
Good. Thank you. Here's one that just came in. If you assign a diagnostic test in the spring, for example, but it's optional for teachers to administer, can students bypass the diagnostic and keep on working on their learning path?
Yes, so just because a diagnostic has been assigned doesn't mean that they have to complete it. Their learning path will continue to persist. Every time the diagnostic is administered, the teacher has the option about whether or not they want that diagnostic to update the student's learning path, or if they want the student to persist on their previous. So we provide the flexibility for the educator to make that choice.
Okay. Are the data and instruction aligned to each state standards?
So both the lessons and the assessments are aligned to state standards. So the administrator can go in and select the state standards that you want to report against. The grade level proficiency indicator here is a national measure. This is based off of our overall skill framework. So this is not predicting, I got to be very clear about this, it's not predicting performance on your state summative test, but it is an indicator of whether they're on track to meet grade level expectations. We did take state summative cut scores from 25 different states into account when we built out this grade level proficiency measure, but it does not predict state summative performance. If that doesn't answer the question, Adam, I'd love to try again and see what their clarification is.
Sure. And we're wrapping up here, right? I think
Yes, we are.
Oh, you're done with your
Actually, I didn't
demo.
mean to do that. Yeah, let me share again.
Oh.
And we'll go back to our PowerPoint.
Okay.
So yeah, I think
you answered the state standards question. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Good. Thank you.
So Adam, I think we're going to do another poll. So we want to hear from you today. Hopefully this is helpful information. Which of these features are you most excited about? All right, grade level proficiency early in the lead. K2 picking up a little bit.
You can answer more than one.
Pretty balanced right now. That's really good to see.
Okay, I'm going to close it out.
Okay.
In the interest of time, mainly. We're not interested in hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that feedback. I really like to see that distribution across it. It means that, you know, some of these features and capabilities are going to impact many different people in different ways. That's what we're hoping for. And so grade level proficiency seems like it was the winner for today. All right, so we are wrapping up. Let me share the last couple of slides here. All right, some reminders for the new year. So as you get set up for this new school year, you know, work on updating if you are an account administrator or program administrator, updating your teachers, archiving the classes from last year if you created classes, creating your new classes and users, of course. You set your new academic year, and as you do that, you're going to select your state standards, define your test windows, and if you're an NWA or Renaissance partner, then you can set up the integration or manually import your assessment data so that your students are ready to go. And lastly, there's a lot of resources available. You know, in addition to if you're working with one of our customer success partners, a lot of wonderful resources on this Getting Started page. And so I highly recommend to take a look at that. We offer office hours. There's lots of other resources that you can watch on demand, like some video tutorials and lots of tips and best practices. So I just wanted to thank you very much for your time and attention today, and wish you the best in this back to school period. And please let us know at Edmentum how we can support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric and Laura. So a recording will be posted on YouTube tonight, and we'll send you an email tomorrow morning with the PowerPoint and the certificate of attendance again. And I already added that link to the certificate in your chat, but you'll get it again. As you exit, there's a post-session survey. Take a second to help us improve our webinars and request a future webinar or any other feedback, unanswered questions. Again, thank you, Laura and Eric. And in the background, Madison was answering questions too. I hope to see you again on a future webinar, and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.